afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of Wowhead Weekly. We've had a relatively light news week, but first, let me introduce myself to my co-host, Wowhead site manager Peculiar. How are you doing this week, Perk?
I'm a little sad, which we'll get to during the show.
We will.
But mostly good as usual.
As usual.
Light news week.
Definitely a light news week. Yeah, we do have some stuff to talk about, but it's definitely been a light news week, mostly because Blizzard had their wrap party away in Las Vegas Monday and Tuesday, so they were too busy enjoying themselves and having fun to post any good stuff for us to talk about.
No hotfixes,
no hotfixes. Yeah, exactly. So we do have a bunch of things to cover, though. The first one we wanted to talk about was this item level increase. So if you weren't aware of this, there's a recent hotfix that applied an item level increase to all of the gear that you get from Blackrock Foundry. So this applies, Perk, to pretty much everything, right? Even stuff from follower mission caches, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so if you get a Foundry item that's from the Blackrock Foundry mission, that is, covered by that increase. So LFR tier gear, normal, heroic, and mythic, that's all covered. Anything related to Blackrock Foundry is up 5 item levels. So
pretty decent sized change. It's certainly caused some controversy. So just to clarify that one, that means the item level range for Raid Finder goes from 650 to 655, normal is 665 to 670, heroic is 680 to 685, and mythic is 695 to 700. So it's everything we'd expect, right? Is it hitting? Is there stuff that's not hitting? Is there stuff that's not being affected by the item level increase that you might have expected would be?
Some users are confused that the New World boss of Rookmar is not affected by it. That loot is still 665.
Yeah, I was confused by that as well, because although he's just a world boss, he's not in Blackrock Foundry. To me, that gear that's dropping from him is associated with the same group of gear, the same group of items. So I was kind of surprised to see that one wasn't buffed up in item level like the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of associated items that aren't from Blackrock Foundry, which were affected, we have the Ethereal Apexis gear, which is 670 to 675, the top-level legendary questline rings, which are 710 to 715, although the lower-level rings, like from High Mall, are not affected. And that actually was not documented in the blue post, but those legendary rings are. And the third thing is the very top level crafted gear is bumped up as well, 5 item levels. So those stage 4 weapons and armor.
Yeah, which is great news, actually, because I think it's really important for the new crafting system they brought in at Warlords that crafted gear remains relevant. I think that's a really key thing, that people can continue to make their own gear. But yeah, there's definitely people who have deleted that gear by accident and now might want to change it are definitely sort of freaking out a little bit here. Because, if you had a Mythic High Mall item, which you then had a Blackrock Foundry item that was kind of a side grade, and now it's had the 5 item level boost that brings it above that item, you might want to get that back. But the item restoration service is obviously the right way to go to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real lifesaver. You can restore a batch of items once per month, but you can restore tons of items within that one item restoration. And all of those items are just sent to your mailbox, and yeah, it's a really simple process. So, like Olivia said, if you had a mythic High Mall item that was better than, Heroic Foundry, now Heroic Foundry is better, you can get that back.
Yeah, definitely. And in order to do it, you just want to go over to your Battle.net account management page, navigate through the support menu to item restoration, or if you're struggling to find it, just type restoration into the search bar from your Battle.net account page. That will take you to the page where you can do it. Just go through, find the right characters, select the items. And if you're seeing items that aren't there, excuse me, let me rephrase that. That was poorly put. If there's items that aren't there that you've deleted recently and you want to get those restored, pop in a ticket. But do try the item restoration first, because it's a lot faster and will take you less time on the live chat to GMs, talking to people, that kind of thing. So the armory, though, the armory itself, as in when you go to us.battle.net/en/wow and check out your character, that's not updated, is it? So that's still showing the old item levels for the gear.
Yeah, the Battle.net item database tends to lag a little behind with hotfixes, so it's a little frustrating that it's behind, but it's to be expected.
Yeah,
probably when 6.1.2 goes live, it will be updated.
Fingers crossed. But that doesn't mean that our database, which itself is linked through to the armory with data fetching, isn't updated. We're all done, right? We're pretty much there with our database.
I mean, there's still a few hiccups, here and there, but As soon as we heard word that the hotfix was going live, we worked to make sure all the items and filters and tooltips were all live. And, if users reported they weren't showing the updated levels, we went back and tried to apply more fixes. So everything is pretty much ironed out and up to date.
Yay, definitely. So if you are looking to see adjusted stats to your character, like say you're at work and you're sneakily looking at your World of Warcraft character, not that anyone who's on this podcast has ever done that, even before they worked for Wowhead, even once, even a tiny bit. If you want to just find out like how much of a given stat you've got or what your stats are with chat, with raid buffs without, with chat, with new gear at least, with raid buffs without, you could go over to wowhead.com/list and grab your character into our profiler, which will then allow you to sync it with the armory. And even though the armory is wrong, you can see the updated item levels in our tables and everything right there. So if you need that information and you're not able to log into WoW for whatever reason, you can definitely go through. And someone asked in chat, Aussie Mandrill says in chat, it's only for one character, right? Hope you didn't delete items on multiple characters. The item restoration service has a limit of regularity, but you can run it on multiple characters, yeah.
Yeah.
So don't worry too much about that. Hello, the Breaker Wow. But yeah, so it's kind of cool. What's interesting to me actually is how annoyed some people have been about this buff. Like I heard about this and I was really happy. Like I was like, oh yay, I get 5 free item levels on a good chunk of my gear. Like I don't have Blackrock Foundry everything, but I'm in a once a week guild right now. So I don't have a ton of Blackrock Foundry gear, but on that gear, I do get a nice upgrade. So my heroic sword got upgraded, my helm and my chest got upgraded, a bunch of cool stuff has been put in. But people seem to be really angry about this. Some people at least, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few factors going into it. I think there's one sense of, oh, I passed on this Blackrock Foundry item, and now actually it's really useful. And it's not a good feeling that you've been trying to plan out your gear a certain way to maximize being competitive and collecting the drops that are best to maximize your, gameplay, and now you made some wrong decisions. And I think it's weird how Heimdall is the same tier, but now it feels kind of obsolete. And it feels a little heavy-handed if Heimdall gear is itemized better. And now it's like, well, we'll just make the worst Foundry gear. We'll just throw item levels on it to make it better. That's the solution. So that doesn't feel like the most sophisticated solution into dealing with itemization issues.
Definitely. I feel like there's certainly been some itemization itemization issues. I can't talk today, so that really bodes well for this show. Some itemization issues with this expansion overall. And yeah, I agree with Pat. Like, I don't think that this is a sort of a great quick fix. Like, let's make sure that stuff that's in the subsequent raid is itemized better going into the raid next time around. But yeah, it's sort of, I can completely understand people who are frustrated, but the item restoration service does exist if you've deleted those items. However, passing on those items, less fortunate, unfortunately. There is also the point that it was a weird day. It was a really weird day for the change. Like, it worked out great for me because we raid on a Wednesday night. So, the change came in and a lot of our DPS got a little item level boost there. And we're like, oh, yay, it's just in time for our raid. But for the rest of the US, it's kind of a weird day given that reset is on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it was also awkward because nobody knew when it would be hitting. So it's like, well, maybe it's going to be Friday. And if we raid Wednesday, that's not really
definitely
good for us.
No, exactly. And it's sort of, people don't want to then go in and do their progression for the week and kill bosses and have it take longer without that buff in item levels only to then see it appear later in the week and so on and so forth. It's kind of, it's not that bad from a gear perspective because by killing bosses before the buff comes in, you're not going to miss out on any gear. But as we kind of covered earlier, if you're looking to upgrade Heimdall gear and you're going into Foundry, you want to know whether you should roll on that item or not, whether you should use your DKP or whatever point system your raid might use to get that gear. When is it going to become 5 item levels better,
And also keep in mind that there are so many users who, don't read the forums, especially because the initial post was made on a Saturday, and that's when people usually log on and play versus, refreshing pages to find something to read. So there could be a lot of confusion where someone just doesn't know it's getting an item level increase, and they're like, why is my LFR gear suddenly better? Or like, why did I pass on this thing? Like, I think that there could have been better communication, both in posting it on a Saturday and also not really telling people when it would go live. And there was even some confusion when it did go live because the tier gear wasn't hotfixed at first. So some people were like, is does this mean that
Yeah,
everything but tier
exactly.
gear, like why are half my tooltips updated but not others?
Yeah, does this mean people were thinking that tier gear wasn't going to get upgraded at all? Some people, like you say, were just completely confused. It's kind of like, obviously Perk and I read the forums very religiously, very regularly, and I'd imagine those of you who are watching the show are probably quite well caught up on the WoW news too. But it's certainly the case that not everyone who plays the game is reading the news and reading the forums every day and like completely abreast of all of the WoW news that's available. So it was kind of a sudden change as well. Like there wasn't a long time between the initial post and the subsequent post, allowing people to sort of plan around it. And like you were saying, it's really hard to plan that for your raid if you just don't know when it's going to happen. So a firm date within the initial announcement would have been very nice, definitely. And I think people are also kind of asserting that it's, and I agree with them, that it's a nerf to the instance. Like that's an interesting perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, they've tried so many different ways to make the instances nerfed over time but still feel rewarding. I mean, they've moved away from things like the Ice Crown buff or the Dragon Soul buff. And in Mist of Pandaria, we had the item level upgrades, but there's no, upgrades you can get with Valor points anymore.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's in that same line, but it sort of feels weirdly too soon, and people are viewing it as a band-aid, like this is a band-aid for itemization issues, and it's also a weird nerf, and we'd like it to be, I don't know, bosses to be tuned differently or items to be tuned differently, but not exactly like this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is potentially a response to some of the complaints that Blackrock Foundry was a difficulty step up from earlier raids. So people are sort of saying, oh, well, we don't want to have to go through Mythic High Mall in order to do heroic Blackrock Foundry. Like, we don't want that assumption to be in place. And I feel like this may have been applied as a band-aid for that issue as well. But I think that, for example, Mythody in chat is saying, I don't like that it makes High Mall gear worse, so that anyone who hasn't got into Blackrock Foundry yet will have a harder time getting into a group now. So that's certainly a very fair point, Mythody. Like, if you're fully High Mall geared out, then, people who are getting Blackrock Foundry gear, even if they're getting it from a lower difficulty than you've run High Mall in, are actually now way ahead of you in gear.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
Sorry. Yeah, it's just weird to have like such a big item level spread, especially because this is meant to be the same tier, and half the tier is now feeling obsolete. It sort of goes against the design principle, and it's sort of weird, forcing content to not be as relevant quickly.
Yeah,
like you're just going to go back to High Mall for your achievements.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels kind of strange, like particularly like Perk said, given that this is allegedly, in names all the same tier, that there's such a huge difference between the early normal High Mall gear and then now the Mythic Blackrock Foundry gear is a huge item level spread between those.
Yeah, it's like 640 and 700 now.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And it does also apply to the Legendary Ring. I think, did we remember to say that earlier? I can't remember if we said that earlier. Okay.
Blizzard didn't put that in their post, but it's definitely applied, just the top level version.
Yeah, exactly. So not the lower level ones, just the very top level one where you've done the runes and you've got the everything done in that level. But yeah, it's kind of strange. It's an interesting way. Like if it was intended as a nerf to the instance, it's definitely an interesting way to go about it. Because to me, like assuming for a second, and I don't think it's necessarily the case, that that's actually why they did it. It's an interesting way to do it because it means that it's not a nerf in the same way as the Dragon Soul nerf or the ICC nerf, where it's kind of a flat mitigation for damage reduction or health reduction that affects everybody universally. It's a nerf that creeps in as you gear. So it's not a nerf for the people who are struggling the most with the raid, which is the people who don't have any of the Blackrock Foundry gear. It's not a nerf for those guys. So it's kind of making it easier for people who have started to go through the instance and started to gear up. So it's sort of, in one hand, it's a kind of strange way to do a nerf because it doesn't help the people who need the help the most. On the other hand, it's kind of a cool way to do a nerf because the first time you go through it, you've sort of got to get everything done and get everything killed in order for the nerfs to start kicking in, which just makes it easier to farm. So from that perspective, I like it.
I'm curious what they would have done because they didn't like Ice Crown and Dragon Soul.
Yeah.
But they can't do the actual item upgrades like they did in MOP because that system is gone. So it's just, maybe this would be the inevitable next step where the gear gets naturally better over time. This is a 5 item level buff. The Valor point gains were for a total of, I think, 8 total, and then moved up to 16 with increments of 4 item levels.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very similar to having your MOP gear upgraded by 1 upgrade level. Yeah. And yeah, if they don't want to go back to flat buffs, like Dragon Soul that increases every month or so, and they can't do the upgrade system in mob, like what, you know, they're left with this sort of system.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, it's an interesting approach. I'm still not wholly convinced, and I hope I made that clear, that I don't think that they necessarily did this as a nerf. Like, they didn't sort of target this out as a nerf to the raid, but it's certainly having that effect. And I also think, like, there's some... I'm struggling to really find the merit in the arguments that people are making that it is kind of causing issues in the progression race, so to speak. Like, to me, and I'm interested in your take on this, of course, Perk, like, to me, the progression race is kind of done. Like, we've got our top 10 nailed down, we've kind of got our top 20, like, we could just go quickly to WoW progress and check if there's anyone on the front page that isn't 10 of, no, the whole, so we've got our top 20, everyone on the front page is 10 of 10. So to me, like, obviously within people's servers, it's not going to be the case. We've only got 33 guilds in the world with 10 of 10 mythic. So it's funny, it's kind of odd in that regard to say that the progression race is over, but nonetheless, the sort of the top 10, the top 20 is kind of done, the top 30 is kind of done. But obviously I can understand that for the position of people who are like, oh, but on my server, I could still be first. And this is kind of making, like, me feel less good about my server first.
Right, I mean, like, there's always been nerfs, and I think that progression is sort of done on a world first level, and we can all say that that race is done. And I mean, there's a matter of perspective when you start getting into servers, and then it's, well, are we the best 3-day guild, the best 4-day guild, the best 2-day guild?
Yeah.
And there's all these factors creep in. I mean, with my experience when I was raid leading a guild, we were, you know, best on the server, and we raided less hours than some other guilds at that level. So that was our little, you know, corner of how we were proud we wanted to be the best guild in that category.
Yeah.
But after a point, there are just some things you can't nitpick and, you know, min-max about because you've committed to rating at a level that's not at the world first level. And I mean, you could even say, hey, when 6.1 came out, that was also a, you know, a nerf because you can now have crafted gear to fill in all of your weak slots that you couldn't before.
That's definitely the case, yeah.
So it's like, you know, all those people that weren't 10 out of 10, they were affected by that.
All those everyone but one guild in the world who were affected by that. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a very reasonable point about the things like, you know, your hourly groups, and, you know, it gets kind of, you can boil it down so far. Like, I'm the best blue-eyed English paladin tank female on my server who plays a blood elf and raids 1 night a week. And it's just like, okay, you know, let's get realistic here. But I do think that I understand why people are upset about it from that perspective. But I personally don't find it a super valid position at this point, at least. And I mean, I guess, you know, unequipped. Oh no, Perk's camera. I guess, you know, like, it's harder to mitigate these nerfs, if it is a nerf, than it was with the previous ones, where you could kind of go to Afrostrazaz at the start of Dragon's Soul and turn it off. But yeah, like, no one ever does that anyway, so it's kind of not a really big concern.
The instance naked.
Yeah, exactly. You could unequip that gear and replace it with old, like, 630 blues in your bag if you want to. That's
challenge mode instance.
Challenge mode.
That would be fun for a
that would kind of
where
cool.
the gear doesn't matter. You just have it all at a set item.
Yeah, mode. That would be fun, actually. That would be a really fun thing, for sure. So moving on from the item level buffs, seasons are changing. Seasons are changing. The leaves are not turning brown because that's the other end of the year. That whatever happens in spring.
It's snowing outside.
It's snowing.
It's
Seriously,
so
okay.
I don't know.
Very, very worst New York spring, and spring here in Southern California is being very unspring-like as well because it's like 85 degrees outside, and it can stop doing this anytime. Spoilers, it won't. It's only going to get hotter from here. But that does mean that there are things changing in WoW as well as in New York and Southern California. There's several items which are going to be going for a few months, and others are returning. We're mostly talking about pets, right, Perk? You're the expert on this stuff.
Yeah, there's one pet which is going away. It's the snowy owl, and it only spawns in winter spring between December 21st and March 21st. So this is your last day to get it. I'm sure there'll be lots of people flying around winter spring trying to catch it. And it's a really pretty pet. It's this white owl. It's a rare spawn, so you might not see it up very frequently, but, you know, keep flying around and you should be able to capture it in a pet battle. Just don't make sure you use a super powerful pet that, you know, could kill it.
Oh man, yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. And there's actually, if you go onto the Wowhead page, and again, I'm going to link this in the post which this video goes with when it's up on Wowhead tomorrow morning, you'll be able to find some comments from there, helpful user comments letting you know tips for catching the snowy owl, and maybe have a little look at your pets and make sure you don't accidentally kill it. There's also a winter summer shift for fishing, right? The squid is going away.
Yeah, I mean, it's not progression food, but there's a winter squid which is going away, and the spring summer fish, the summer bass, is coming. And you need to catch both fish for an oceanographer achievement. So, do some fishing today, do some fishing tomorrow, and you can progress on that achievement.
Definitely. And there's that's basically if you want to do fishing specific stuff, like you don't need to freak out about it if it's just because you are fishing. Like there's no change to the fishing that you're doing to get your stat food. Don't worry.
Yeah.
This is just for a fishing achievement for the achievement hunters out there with their 12,000, 15,000, so many points. How many are you on right now, Perk?
21, I think. Yeah.
Dang! Wow, that is a ton of achievement points. Like for my sins, I've always been split over at least 2 or 3 accounts, so I'm terrible with achievement points. I'm also not a great achievement hunter. That's where Perk comes in. So the other interesting news this week is I have to kind of take all the smugness that I put out
Yep.
last week, and I have to grab
No
all
more
my
smug.
smugness up and put it back where it came from because they've unnerfed PvP damage. So last time we were here, we were chatting about how there'd been a 10% nerf to PvP damage. I was being horribly smug because I'd said to friends of mine when they took resilience away altogether at the start of Warlords of Draenor, oh, they'll bring it back. And I was all smug saying didn't think it would be this soon. And then they went and took it away again. So the question, of course, is why? And CM Law put a post up that sort of explained their position on this. So I'm going to read this. Excuse me, looking away. Recently, he says, we applied a hotfix that reduced the damage players took in PvP by 10%. Our goal was to reduce damage across the board in order to slow matches down a bit. However, we received overwhelming feedback from players that this change did not result in a positive effect on gameplay and that they preferred the faster paced matches they were experiencing prior to the hotfix. After some discussion, we've decided to reverse the change and remove the 10%, you said 20 then, 10% damage reduction in PvP. So, interesting.
Yeah, the first thing I want to note just from a data perspective is that it's really funny to look at the spell page for the PvP damage reduction because we have a change log showing all the different variations, it goes from 10 to 0, and there's been so many changes to it in
Yeah.
past expansions.
Yeah,
Just
that's a
that goes
great
up and
thing.
down
It's
all
a
the
really,
time,
it's
so
a
I just find it
really,
funny.
really, really interesting look at sort of the history of PvP damage mitigation. And like obviously, like prior to when resilience was still on gear, when resilience was still a thing you collected up by gathering PvP gear, it doesn't apply then. But you can see the history of resilience as it's no longer called, when it was on everybody. So to me, certainly, it's a really entertaining sort of roller coaster of PvP-based damage mitigation. Personally, like, I am indifferent to the change as a PvPer. I tend to heal a lot, so as a healer, I like it when it's harder, when matches are slower and people don't die quite so quickly and burstily, because it gives me more time to do my healing thing. So I find that fun. But on the other hand, I can totally understand when I put my mage hat on and do 2 DPS stuff, or 3 DPS stuff, even if I'm feeling particularly trolly, then you definitely want those matches to be over fast. That's kind of what you're looking for. It's kind of an interesting balance that they have to strike, and it's really tricky to do that so that everybody's happy. Like, you're never going to make everybody happy. I do think, though, that this change wasn't necessarily the right one to fix particular problematic classes. Like, at the time, there was problems with ferals being very, very bursty and problems with Beast Mastery Hunters. So I think that's Gladiator Super 2 saying 3 DPS is not troll. But what if I play a troll? Then it's I'm joking. I find 3 DPS kind of a trolley comp to play with. But yeah, so I think it's a good change to put it back and then focus on actually dealing with the classes that are problematic rather than trying to apply this kind of band-aid fix of taking damage down overall by 10%.
So you think we'll be seeing more hot fixes to targeted classes to
possibly,
replace
yeah.
this back?
I don't think that we're going to see a ton of really, really big changes to classes, but I think we'll see some small hot fixes to try and tweak damage to kind of respond to the removal of this 10% mitigation. And I also think that we may well see some alterations to healers because there were certainly people complaining that healers were harder to kill with the 10% damage reduction in. And I think certain healers are going to be very much more susceptible to that problem than others. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some nerfs to certain healers. But overall, fair enough. If they like the faster paced matches, then that's absolutely fine. So moving on, every week we look at the news for Wowhead itself. This week is no exception. So we've got some cool stuff to talk about this week. Upgrade recommendations, Per. You guys have been working really hard on that, getting those in.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I know we've talked before about how the profiler if you pin a character, lets you see what items you've collected, like mounts or pets, as you browse the database. And we decided to expand that into gear upgrades. So if you have a character pinned and you visit a page for, say, a belt, and it's better than what your character is wearing, it will say if it's an upgrade or not in the quick facts area towards the top right of the page. We have a full post coming about this on Sunday, but yeah, we're just really excited that if you go to wowhead.com/list and you pull up your character and you click on that pin next to the purple thumbtack at the top, whenever you browse the site, it will like you sort of give you an alert like, hey, you might want this item, on Mythic or this crafted belt. So there's some things that we still want to refine and do even more improvements to item recommendations, but we think this is a really cool start right now. And I think you're muted.
I am muted, yes. My microphone does that every now and then because the connection isn't perfect. But yeah, no, it's a really cool start to sort of allow Wowhead's profiler to just do more and more. And it allows you to go in and pin a character. So it doesn't even have to be a given character. Like if I want to just go through the site and see what might be an upgrade for my mage, I can pin my mage, or I can do my priest, I can do my paladin, I can do my warrior, or all of them, both or everything. So I can see all of these cool item recommendations. It's a great way to, and Ryan overall mentions in chat, it's a great way also to track your mounts and pets. There's a ton of cool stuff there once you set up all the synchronization. Pet, why don't you just remind people how they go ahead and get those characters up there through the Wowhead client as well as through the actual linking via our profiles?
Oh, so I mean, it's really simple. They can just go to wowhead.com/list and type in your armory, just like your character server, their name, and you can pull stuff up, and you can then just click on the purple pin button, and that allows you access to the gear recommendations and lots of collection tracking like mounts and pets and achievements and quests for Lore Master. But if you do these 2 extra simple steps, you can track followers, toys, and heirlooms, which involves downloading and running the Wowhead client. We can put links to that in the post.
Yep.
And also, if you go to your profile page, next to the pin button, you'll see something called Verify Your Character. Follow the steps so we know it's you, and just by magic, you will have all of that extra information on that page once you log in and out with the Wowhead client running.
It literally is magic, by the way. She's not joking. There's no development here. We just use magic. So Con Elder, in chat asks, please explain the Wowhead bag scanner. So how do people get the Wowhead bag scanner? How do they set it up? What does it do?
So the Wowhead bag scanner is a subscriber-only feature on Wowhead, which means that in the process of, giving a small donation to Wowhead, it will remove the ads on the site, and you get some other cool features, and one of them is the bag scanner. It's a pretty lightweight add-on, and it just sort of tracks everything in your bags and includes that to all of the site-wide tracking. So if you have something in your bag or your bank or your void storage, when you visit that page, it will tell you if you have that item, and if it's a reagent, how many of that item you will have. So if you're not a premium subscriber, you do not have access to this feature. But it's really cool, and you should become a premium subscriber.
It is. And on that note, we recently got a partner on Twitch, and please don't subscribe to us on Twitch. Please spend that same money, even less, if you pay for a longer period, and go over and subscribe to Premium on Wowhead, because it's much more worth your while. You don't just get one weekly show, you get a ton of other benefits. You get to take away ads if you want to. You get awesome images on all of your tooltips. So if you're mousing over a tooltip for a certain shield, you'll get an image of a character with that shield equipped from our screenshot library, and you'll get the bag scanner, as Perk just mentioned. Cool things like borders, portraits. That is a great thing to spend your money on, rather than spending $4.99 a month to subscribe to us on Twitch. Don't do that. Do the Wowhead Premium instead. And we've also got a ton of cool guide updates come in recently. So Serene, who is our amazing guide writer and general sort of database maintainer extraordinaire, has been putting together a Garrison World Invasion Bosses guide.
Yeah, so there are these new type of content in 6.1. You have a chance to get this item when you finish an invasion, to summon a boss who can drop iLvl 660 loot and mounts and some other things. And there are 6 bosses, and because a lot of people, they're a rare drop and not a lot of people were killing these bosses every week, we thought we'd put together a guide just sort of explaining the basics and, what they drop, how you cannot die to them, because if you wipe to the boss, then you can't summon him again.
And you can definitely die. You can definitely die to these ones. Like, it's not like the earlier invasions where it's just like LOL, punch man. You can definitely die to these guys. So you want to know about that. It's a very cool guide. Serene does amazing work for the site. We've also put together, you've been working on guides to the Black Market Auction House and the Blizzard Shop, acquiring vanity items through those, haven't you?
Yeah, they were really fun guides to put together. I was, in preparation for the WoW token, we've been talking so much about all these vanity items. I'm like, oh, I should write guides to these because it's really cool stuff. So the Black Market Guide breaks down all the different types of items you can get. If you didn't like what they had in MoP, they have even more items in Warlords, like a lot of tabards, different containers, even more mounts like the Zulian Tiger, and also sort of breaking down what these starting buyout prices are, which could be useful. They might sell. They might actually go for a lot, but it's good to know what the starting
for sure. Are. And it's great to sort of just understand what exactly is available from where and what exactly comes from where as well. Because I know there's a bunch of people out there who don't even, and not that I necessarily recommend going and buying the loot cards, but there's a lot of people out there who don't realize that that's even a thing you can do. So it's really, really useful guides. Our sister site, Hearthhead. So Wowhead is to WoW as Hearthhead is to Hearthstone, to use one of those old like wordplay puzzles that you used to get in school. So Hearthhead is our Hearthstone site, and they have a ton of cool guides as well now. There's a bunch of good stuff over there. So they've got a guide system similar to Wowhead. So if you need guides to anything Hearthstone-y, you want to go and check those out. And they're starting to get guides in for the new, upcoming, exciting Blackrock Mountain, which I just want to call Blackrock Foundry every day of the week. Every time I go to say that, it's Blackrock Foundry. But that's being released. It's available for pre-order now, right? But it's not actually open for play yet.
Right. It became available for pre-order yesterday, I think. In fact, nice. You get a really cool card back with it. It's it's very fiery. So you don't have to do anything. I know card backs usually have to get a certain rank, but you just have to pre-order this and you get this card back.
Yeah, you just have to give them some money and you get the card back. So that's awesome. There's 5 wings. The cost is $24.99. You can buy them all now, or you can just buy them one at a time. Which will turn out to be a little bit more expensive, but they've staggered the pricing this time so that you can buy, if you buy wing 1, you'll get a discount on wings 2 through 5.
Right.
If you buy wings 1 and 2, you'll get a discount on 3 through 5, and so on like that. So it's actually kind of not as bad, not as punitive to buy each wing at once. You do get a discount this time around, which is an improvement on Nax. We don't actually know when it opens just yet, do we? When it's actually going to be available for play?
At PAX they said sometime in April, but we don't know. Right now we have 12 cards revealed, and we actually have the tech to put those upcoming cards on the site, even though we can't data mine them, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, just sometime in April. And
there's PAX cameras on again. Yeah, so sometime in April that'll become open for play. I'd expect it to be relatively soon, given that they're allowing people to pre-order it. If it was pre-order now and it opens on the 25th of April, that would be kind of surprising.
Yeah, and we have 12 cards, that's a lot, and we've had several wings, three wings already previewed. Yeah. So they're moving along at a fast pace.
Definitely, yeah. And do we know if Gladiator Super T is asking in chat whether we can buy the wings with gold like Naxxramas?
I think so. Yeah. I know that we have an image in the post that was taken from the PAX presentation, sort of going over all of the pricing options, and I believe it's there. So it's not just us, if we're saying something, it's not us being like, oh, well, we think it's like Nax, copy paste. It's
exactly.
Off the image.
Yeah, see, I would be very surprised indeed if there wasn't the availability to buy them separately. But yeah, as No Greets says in chat, not sure if you can pre-order with gold, but do check out the post on Hearthhead. Yeah. Again, I'm going to link it down here when this is up on Wowhead, so you can check it all out over there. We don't know the release date yet, but we will find out, and obviously we'll keep you updated. Keep an eye on Hearthhead. So the last bit of news for the show this week is something which anyone who follows me on Twitter will probably know about already if you read your timelines. It's kind of related to Wowhead news, and it's kind of why Perk was sad at the top of the show, is that I'm leaving. I'm leaving ZAM, I'm leaving Wowhead. I'm going to work for Blizzard. I'm going to be on the esports team, and I'm going to be working with the esports team on World of Warcraft. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, I'm pretty excited about that. It's great news for me, great news to be going to work for Blizzard, great news to be working in the esports side of a game that I've played for such a long time. I'm thrilled to bits, and I couldn't be happier about it, to be honest. But as every door opens, another door closes. Like, that's a weird way around to say that. I'm super sad to be leaving Wowhead and working with Zam, and it's a real shame. So, yeah, definitely. And thank you very much to people saying congratulations in chat. That's very kind of you to say so. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame for me, because I've had a great time working here with Wowhead. Yeah,
it's been really fun working together this past year, and starting up the show and collaborating on cool new things for the site. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll do great, but we're personally sad because it's really fun.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's been really, really fun. And we've had a great time. We spearheaded a bunch of new initiatives on Wowhead, and they've worked out well so far. So we've had, it's been really, really fun working with Perk. And like, Perk is one of the people in the industry who I always respected the very most. And it's been an amazing experience to work with her, because she's totally awesome, by the way. But yeah, I guess like we should probably talk about like what's going to happen to this show exactly when it'll carry on. Is basically where we're going with that. So you're not going to disappear. Wowhead Weekly will carry on without me. If I can come back as a guest, I will. I will totally come back as a guest if I'm allowed to. I don't know whether I'll be allowed to just yet. What's going to happen to the site? Wowhead existed before I joined, and Wowhead will continue to exist and be just absolutely fine without me too. Wowhead is an awesome site run by awesome people. So you don't have to worry about anything with Wowhead as a result of my departure.
Yeah, I mean, we have such like a big community of people that are contributing. So we have plans on who can take over various roles, and they're like, Wowhead was even here before I joined, so it will be okay. I mean, it's sad when some people leave, but we'll progress. The news will be there. The guides will be there. The database updates will be there. The devs will still be doing their dev things. Yeah.
Exactly. So one person leaving the team does not impact the site heavily. So do ask away, by the way, if you have questions about anything related to the show.
I like that idea. Mike and Josh do a podcast on the side of Olivia and Perk.
Yeah. I mean, if we can figure it out, sure. Like, the only problem is that Perk and I are both massive WoW nerds, and we would talk about WoW. And I don't know
Blizzard merch?
Exactly. Oh, that would be a cool thing to. Okay, this is a good idea. I was like, what would we talk about that isn't WoW? Like, because I don't know if I would be allowed to talk about Blizzard stuff on the podcast. I haven't listened to Laura Mike B's podcast enough. Sorry, Mike B. I haven't listened to it enough to know how much they touch on Blizzard stuff. I don't know what I'd be allowed to do, but yeah, we could totally talk about Blizzard merchandise, because we are both massive Blizzard merchandise nerds.
Yeah, we had that idea. We could just be like, does this shirt fit? Is it comfortable? Is this Murloc?
Exactly.
Can you pull Hogger's collar off? Stuff like that.
Yeah, we could do a little show, definitely. So yeah, like, people are suggesting other things, and we're super lucky at Zam with Wowhead to have Zam behind us, and there's a bunch of cool people there, and we're already working, and watch the space for the next show, because I'm sure we will have news by then. And yeah, like, I'd love to do a podcast, and so Giadinius says there's a job opening on Wowhead. You say, well, I mean, sure, like, there's definitely people we've got internally already who are working on site, people like Serene who are writing awesome guides for us, who may well be able to expand their responsibilities. At Olivia, where are you going to work now? I'm going to work at Blizzard Entertainment on the esports team, which is awesome, and I'll be working on esports for World of Warcraft. So I am super excited about that. It's very, very exciting for me. Other questions, fire away. Yeah, I'm going to miss working for Wowhead a bunch. It's been fun. And I'm also going to miss working from home slightly.
Yeah, like, it's being nice able having a flexible job time, or just being able to relax midday and take a break if the work isn't working out, and coming back.
Exactly. And there's something to be said for being able to work in your pajamas. Although I gather that that's fine at Blizzard too. I gather that you're allowed to work in your pajamas at Blizzard, but the commute will be a bit further. I doubt me shuffling around in my dressing gown in the morning will be as acceptable. Will I need to move? The Gold Queen asked. No, I will not. I already live in Orange County, so I am close by already. I moved here over a year ago now for work. When does the job start? I can't say. I don't know an exact start date yet. How many more shows of Wowhead Weekly can we expect? At least one.
Yep, we'll be back next week for sure.
Exactly, we'll be back next week for sure. So I don't know exactly when it is. Super D says he commentates in his PJs. All the best people do everything in their PJs.
I actually dress up. I always like dressing up, so
oh, that's good.
Super fancy at work, even though I'm from home.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great. It's like, you know, it's nice to feel sort of important and fancy. And I know that you wear these amazing clothes when you're doing stuff to make yourself feel motivated, and that's awesome.
Yep, exactly.
Gentle Poor asks, is esports all PvP or just like high-end tourneys? Esports is everything that is a gaming like on Twitch, like not necessarily, hey, this is me leveling my paladin on Twitch, but anything that's competitive and on Twitch could be considered esport. So, you know, if you've got, like, for example, GCD TV this evening is an esport tournament. Like, that's WoW Esports. It's run by Breaker and D Machine, and Super Tees is commentating, and there's a ton of big names going on it tonight. So if you are looking to watch some PvP, that would be a really good place to go. But yeah, it's all kinds of all the tournaments that you see on Twitch, all the PvP stuff, things like, you know, the live raid. So it's not necessarily all PvP. It's every kind of competitive gaming is considered esports. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. Con Elder asks, is this your last Wowhead Weekly? No. There's definitely at least one more. So I can't give you like sort of firm information on dates at this point, but there's definitely at least one more coming. This is not my last Wowhead Weekly. Don't worry. And Wowhead is going to be just fine without me around. So I'm going to drink some water from my giant bottle. Yeah, if you have other questions, do fire away. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's like working for Blizzard is an exciting thing, but it's been amazing working for Wowhead. It's been really fun. And Overwatch equals esports, potentially. Like with the Overwatch presentation, they were talking about how they haven't really seen the esports, they haven't really incorporated the esports side into the game yet, but they did show off some gameplay at that press day. So it's going to be amazing. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic esport. Like, it's so well set up for esport. It's a beautiful game.
You were saying that when you attended the fan site gathering that there was some, you know, fan site site directors there, but there were some really competitive people there as well that were like super good at playing the game. So I can see that, you know, naturally turning into, you know, kind of like Hearthstone, like exhibition matches, and then something maybe more serious or organized.
Yeah, why didn't they hire Peculiar? I don't think she applied.
Yeah, I don't do esports, and I like, you know, at this current point, I like working on Wowhead. The database is a lot more in depth than the Battle.net, you know, Armory. The types of guides I write are more in depth and take a different tone than the game guide. And yeah, the types of tools I have, I can do more like targeted things to different types of players that maybe you couldn't do if you were on Battle.net and trying to reach like everyone on the site, you know, who plays WoW.
Yeah, definitely. So can you please put the Conquest Gear Bible with honor after 27k? It's really annoying. I'd love that. It's not my, I don't think that would be part of my remit to make that decision though. Live Battlegrounds would also be fun to see, I guess, if not done already, like live raiding at BlizzCon. There was a tournament that did that recently. What was it called? The name of it escapes me at this exact moment in time, but there was a very, very cool tournament that was literally that. It was a rated Battleground tournament where they were...
I thought some really early BlizzCons did it too.
Yeah, there was 5v5 as well, and like there's been different formats totally. It's just like, I can't remember the name of the tournament that did it very recently, and they got a really good response from it as well. It was a really cool tournament. They did a great job, and they got a great response to it as well. So who knows, maybe. But yeah, what else is sick here? No need to leak. Perk has superhuman skills to data mine stuff.
Thank you for all the data.
She does have amazing skills. So, and obviously, like, I'm not going to be leaking information. No, Perk and I will stay friends for sure, but I won't be leaking information. That would be very, very bad for my job.
Yeah, that
which
would
I want to keep.
I like finding information from, you know, being really good at my job and interpreting the data. That would not be cool.
Yeah, there's often a sort of misconception that, I'm going to kill Perk with his camera again. There's often a misconception that Wowhead actually gets stuff fed to us from Blizzard. We totally don't. Not at all, not even a little bit. Like, it's all just through Perk and our awesome devs, RU and Aurora, their work on the data mining. They find all this stuff out by themselves. They don't need the help from Blizzard. Like,
yeah, I mean, a lot of the times we'll see something, we'll try to interpret it in like the least offensive way so we don't speculate something totally bizarre, or we keep, you know, maintaining the data so if we show new spells, we're not going to show something really out of the blue,
Yeah.
like restoration druids now have this tanking cooldown.
Yeah.
Trying to make everything look really nice. But yeah,
Exactly.
it's just us, dealing with alerts and determining what, topics and tools people want to know more about. And we do a pretty good job predicting that. So maybe it gives the impression that we,
Yeah.
have some secret help, but it's just us, constantly analyzing what people are interested in.
Yeah, definitely. And like the guys do an amazing job on that. Perk is just all over it. So I can understand why people think that's the case, but it's totally not. And they've never had help directly from Blizzard, and they certainly don't need it. I know Perk was hunting BlizzCon pets, asks the Gold Queen. Found anything yet? Don't think so.
I trying to remember exactly what it was because I think I have all the pets and the plushies at this point.
Oh, I think she's referring to when we were talking last week that we were trying to find a Gromlock-esque item in the data.
Oh,
Do you
no,
remember last year?
We haven't found anything yet. The most bizarre thing so far is just something called the special pet for Heroes of the Storm. But the last few data builds have been like super boring. They've just been changing the icons on the WoW tokens. I guess this is cool. The WoW tokens are light blue in the data. We had to do some data tweaks too.
Yeah.
Get them to show up as blue in the site. That was strangely a little more complex than we thought, but interesting look at behind the scenes stuff.
Definitely.
Changing a color requires tickets and
surprisingly difficult.
Parts of the site breaking.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like Gunship. Like everything breaks Gunship. So Ryan overall says it was talked about a little bit last week, but the Void Talon, Perk, Olivia, have you guys had any luck finding it yet? No.
No, I've been doing fishing in the background, and I got my 100 coin Nat Pagel item for the red version of the Water Strider. So that's been my sort of serious mount project now. And yeah, maybe I'll try for the Void Talon. It's a little difficult because with fishing, I can just stop and take a break to do work if like hotfixes come up. But with the Void Talon, it's, oh, this portal isn't up and now I have to do work, and I log back into this guy now has the Void Talon right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tricky when they're those limited spawn type ones to just find a time in the day to really do it. Like you can, and also like I would imagine that the portal itself isn't trackable by things like NPC scan or Silver Dragon, so it's harder to like have that alert pop up. Like I know I've done it before where I have WoW open and I sit other windows over it and then I wait for that alert for an NPC, and then I'm like, okay, into WoW, but then these portals won't trigger one of those alerts.
Right.
So it's a lot harder to camp. Overwatch Murloc, says the Gold Queen. I wouldn't be surprised, actually. That would be very cool. Obviously, I don't know anything yet. I don't work for Blizzard yet. I'm just hypothesizing and speculating at this point. But yeah, that would be awesome. I would love an Overwatch, like a Tracer Murloc that zips backwards half the time. That would be very cool. Or a Winston Murloc. How long has the show been on? Do you mean in like minutes or do you mean in like episodes? This is episode 28 and we started about an hour ago.
Yeah, we started the show in, I think, late June or early July to tie in with the beta. So, pretty frequently, we've had some dev interviews in there. We took a break for the holidays, but it's been pretty regular.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's been on a little, depending on what you meant, either about 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, or about 50 minutes. Depending on which one you meant there. Grats on the Water Strider. Yeah, exactly. It's hard. Ryan overall is confirming it's hard to, can't add that portal to NPC scan, so it would trigger. So it definitely makes it a little bit more tricky. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, then we will call it a day there. Thank you so much for watching, as ever. You can follow me on Twitter on Olivia D. Grace, right there. There. You can follow Perk on Peculiar, which is above her screen over there. You can follow Wowhead on Wowhead, and obviously check out wowhead.com for all of the information that you've seen on this show. I'll be putting it up with links to all of the guides and everything like that in the post tomorrow morning, which is Saturday. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Twitch chat, for hanging out. I always love spending time with you guys.
Yeah, the Q&As are fun.
Yeah, the Q&As are fun, definitely. And we will see you again soon. So bye-bye.